When we use the word epiphany, we mean something becoming manifest. So it's when someone or something appears to us, or when we get some sort of fresh insight because of something that we witnessed or something that we experienced. That is what the word means. So just a quick example. When I was in Africa, some of the people there that I met were completely convinced that human beings couldn't possibly survive a Wisconsin winter. They were convinced that a person would freeze solid in this weather. And we never actually convinced them otherwise. Well, my friend and classmate, Peter Patrick Kimani, is from Kenya, and his first year with us at the seminary was his first real winter. And during the first snowfall, he had a great time building a snowman with the other guys. He had an epiphany that winter wasn't quite so scary as he might have thought. Insight based on experience. Epiphany. When we talk about the Epiphany, we're mainly talking about the manifestation of Christ to the Magi. Okay? They're the subjects experiencing the Epiphany at this moment. Okay? Joseph and Mary are not experiencing the Epiphany. They got theirs earlier at the actual birth of Christ, because they were there. The Magi were not. So my goal here and now is to walk you through what those Magi thought and saw at the time. Let's try to pretend that we're Magi on this journey west to some little village the locals call Bethlehem. Step one, we need to establish the scene. There are 4 details that are important to the Epiphany story. The first is Herod, king of the Jews. Second is Egypt to the south by southwest. The third detail is that guiding star of Bethlehem. And the fourth is baby Jesus. We need at least a passing knowledge in all 4 of these things in order for this story to make sense. I'm going to assume you know a thing or two about baby Jesus. So, Herod the Great. We know for a fact that Herod the Great was a real person. He was king of Israel at the time, and he was a selfish king who had no problem being cruel to his people if it meant furthering his own personal ends. All these things we know from sources other than the Bible. So in review, Herod was a tyrant and a king to be feared. Egypt. This is a factor because at the end of our gospel reading, it's stated that the Magi went back home by another route. So we presume that they were going back through Egypt instead of going back the way they came through Israel. And the reason for that is that Egypt was always outside the jurisdiction of the king of Israel. So King Herod had no power in Egypt. And because he was making deals with the Romans, he had a little bit of sway north of Israel, but south of Israel was fair game. It was Switzerland, so to speak. So, Egypt was the obvious choice for anyone fleeing the authorities, be it the Jewish king or the Romans. And finally, we've got the star. This is a tricky subject. We know that astrology was very popular at the time and place of this writing. It's hard to say what the Magi actually saw in the sky and what was added to the gospel after the fact. I just don't have time to go in it today. I don't have the time. But whatever the answer is to that specific question of what did the Magi see in the sky, we can nevertheless read about the star as the guiding hand of the Holy Spirit. By way of a star, the Magi knew exactly where they needed to go. And they found themselves in a little place called Bethlehem. All right, you got all the prep you need. You know the kind of man Herod was. You know how useful Egypt was for refuge. And you know that the star is literally or figuratively a guiding beacon leading to Christ. Now, it is time to place yourselves on their journey, to walk several miles in their shoes, which were very likely quite comfy and well made for traveling. So imagine it with me now. You and the other Magi come to Israel in search of someone important. The signs of the times led you here, and you merely wish to show your respect. This powerful King Herod tells you to go on with your journey. Find this different kind of king. But you can tell, in the way that he pretends to smile, he has no intention of showing his respect to the one who is to come. You walk, you ride your camels, and this child king named Jesus is finally before you. On the outside, you do exactly what you set out to do. You offer him your gifts, you bow to his royal nobility, you show your gratitude that you were able to meet him and his parents. But on the inside, something is quite different in your heart. This little child is even more than you thought he'd be. And it is clear now that he will not be betrayed by you to Herod. The Epiphany is the human word for what has hit you here and now. God the Most High is not some philosophic thought to debate with old men. He is not the mere cosmic origin of all things, and he's certainly not a human construct. He's right here, the Son of the Father, as solid and real as any other person. And then you and the other Magi make your decision. You do not turn back and report your discovery to Herod, who would certainly abuse that knowledge. You do not take the easy way home. Instead, you head south by southwest to Egypt. It's going to be quite some time before you see your home again, but it's better than dealing with the wrath of Herod. And it's all because of this Jesus fellow, who would one day be known as the King of Kings. To look upon him is to experience the Epiphany, and to know that true divinity has been made manifest on the face of the earth. And the world will never be the same again.